Path of Exile 2 is an absolutely incredible game that has one crippling flaw for me. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and I've been sick for the past week and a half or so, and I've wanted something new to play, so I decided to try out Path of Exile 2. I have dipped my toe into PoE 1, but I've never been that big of an ARPG player. I normally find combat to be too repetitive and uninteresting to me, but I've always respected what Grinding Gears games have been able to accomplish with PoE 1, and the sheer value on offer with PoE 1, and I wanted to try out PoE 2 because a lot of the changes made to that game seem to appeal to me. The dodge roll, recent melee complete rework, and the game just looks really pretty, and I wanted to try out PoE 2, and I have. I've gotten balls deep into Act 2 at this point, I want to say, and when I tell you exactly where I'm at, you may realize what the crippling flaw that I'm alluding to is. I got to Trial of the Sekhemas. It's awful. But before I go on my tangent in regards to that, I want to talk about what I really like from PoE 2 so far. I think the storytelling is pretty dang good. The voice acting is like shockingly competent, like it's way better than you think it would be.
That bastard tyrant Praetor Draven! He's taken my family hostage! They're being held somewhere beyond these gates. I never thought he would stoop this low.
And I think their use of visual storytelling is top-notch. I love the fact that when you go up against the Executioner boss fight, you see him execute somebody watching on in horror as their loved one is being executed. Dude jumps down at you, the player, and goes, okay, you're next. And then you duke it out as his minions shoot fire arrows at you. It is thematic, it is cinematic, and it's awesome. And I love how each of the bosses in this game, to me at least, felt unique and memorable and fun. Like, the second fight or boss fight in this game is against this underground worm guy, and for somebody you meet like 10 minutes into this game, he's a pretty intense encounter. And I can say that about pretty much every fight I've come across in this game. Some of them are easier than others, but even if they are really easy, I can appreciate the spectacle going on, or just the fact that I may have some really busted pieces at that point in time, namely the weapon I got, which was busted, that I got like 30 minutes into the game, and there were only a couple of pain points for me because I was playing as melee as a warrior, because I thought warrior just sounded really cool, and it is really cool. My setup right now pretty much involves overkilling enemies, having them blow up, but I also have this fire war cry going on, so that when I kill enemies, they also blow up for fire damage, and these things chain together, I think, and it's really, really funny having hordes of enemies come at me. I yell in their general direction, and then I just start swinging, and they just blow up. The combat feels far more up my alley because the game, at least at this point, feels far less reliant on buffing up one big ability, and I feel more like a warrior, and I feel more like my class, and utilizing a bunch of different abilities when I see them working in any given situation. If I have a really big wave of enemies coming at me, I can throw down a totem, I can throw down a couple of earthquakes if I want to, I can then pop my war cry to ignite all the enemies, and I can start swinging, have all my AoEs chained together, or I can shoot out fireballs from my giant hammer. It's really cool, and combined with how more involved the actual combat is, for me at least, with PoE 2 compared to PoE 1, mainly because of the implementation of dodging, I found the combat to be far more engaging and satisfying for me personally. Though I imagine if you just want that experience of becoming insanely fast and powerful, I can understand why the changes made with PoE 2 would not strike your fancy as much as they appeal to me. I never particularly liked that overly spammy playstyle. I've always found it off-putting. PoE 2 is far more in line with what appeals to me. And I found myself just wanting to keep playing PoE 2. And yeah, the game was melee unfriendly, especially the final dungeon of Act 1, which was essentially composed of how many ground AoEs can we put into one dungeon, the dungeon. But I really enjoyed the Act 1 boss. It had multiple phases, they were cool and interesting, had a great visual, and had great build-up. Then Act 2 has been so completely different, but also really cool as well. The giant caravan, all the people pulling it along the desert, it's visceral and dark and gritty, and that's just what PoE does so well, in my opinion. It's a brutal game in a brutal world, but you feel as if you can be equally brutal in terms of what you can do to the enemy. And in that regard, I really enjoy PoE 2. The combat which is central to an ARPG like PoE, in PoE 2 is super fun to me. I love the boss design. The music is pretty good. Nothing overly memorable, but it's fitting and feels epic when it applies. The storytelling and the story overall is nothing to particularly write home about, but when doubled alongside the visual storytelling and these little moments that you can experience as you're going out on your adventures, these little bits of lore, it's engaging enough. Because let's be fair here, PoE is not built upon the story, it's built on that rock-solid gameplay. And it would take something truly catastrophic to make me lose interest in PoE 2. Enter Trial of the Sekhmet. I don't know who this is supposed to appeal to be engaging or fun. Nothing about it is. The actual events you have to do within Trial of the Sekhmet, and for those who don't know, it's basically like a pseudo-roguelike. I believe PoE 1 has a similar feature with some differences, where you're going from floor to floor with various challenges. You pick the route and the specific floor you want to go to get the exact loot you want of the ones listed. And it all culminates in this final big boss fight. Why don't I like it? Because the actual activities you do in Trial of the Sekhmet, to me, are just boring. Or at least most of them are. You have one which just involves touching a bunch of, like, ritual sites, and you're on a timer, so you have to just go from one to the other, only being told the vague direction it's at, but it's really easy to find the thing, and you're never really stressed for time, because you just run by all the enemies, because you don't need to fight them, so you just hit every point, get to the end of the floor, kill the 2 mobs that have still followed you, and you're on your way. I wouldn't call that a fun challenge. You have another one which is this series of branching paths, walled off, well, by walls, and you have to find the lever to open the correct path to get to the final destination, and it's filled with traps. Really easy to avoid, like, all of this stuff, especially with dodge roll, and you have the occasional enemy which is kind of annoying because they just throw out projectiles at you ad infinitum, but again, nothing particularly engaging or interesting there either. You have an hourglass room where you're supposed to just fight off waves of enemies, but it doesn't really amount to that. It pretty much just amounts to kill a few enemies to spawn the elite mob, focus that guy down, then you're done. You have like 60 seconds to accomplish this, by the way, and if you have a really good weapon, it's not that big of an issue. And you have another room where you have these like skeletal necromancers opening various demonic portals, sending in waves of enemies. Basically, one enemy every like 5 seconds or so. You just have to kill the skeletal wizards or whatever the hell they're called to close each of the portals. Room's done. Move on. And it all culminates with a final big boss fight. And sure, that's cool. And you may be going, well, Jmulls, it just kind of sounds like a bit of a bland experience. Nothing overly bad, you know, just do it once and GG, doesn't sound too difficult. Well, my issue with Trial of the Sekhmet is twofold. One, everything I just talked about, where the actual activities you are doing and performing here are rather bland, dull, and uninteresting, and just a giant time sink. And then you have this additional mechanic I haven't talked about yet, called honor. Honor was designed by Satan himself, because I can't imagine anyone actually thought this to be a good idea that's human. Honor is a system where you have a max amount of honor at the start of a run. Every time you get hit, you lose honor. If your honor goes down to 0 at any point throughout the run, it is the same as dying. So you lose all your progress. So if you get caught by a bunch of enemies that surround you and just pile on a bunch of AoEs, you're cooked, little bro. It is the most mind-numbingly dumb system I have ever seen in this game. I don't understand what it's supposed to add to the experience. It's just an annoying thing to manage. It's supposed to make enemies hitting you feel more intense and to give you this throughput feeling throughout the entire run and this resource to manage. I get that, but it's not a fun thing to do. I'm a melee. This game is already melee unfriendly, and you made it 12 times more melee unfriendly because you lock ascendancy behind this system. So if I want to unlock my ascended class from warrior, I have to complete this system anyways. And in in this game, which is already melee unfriendly because you die so quickly, and things just throw out a bunch of projectiles at AoEs at the drop of a freaking hat, you then introduce a system here where it's not only that I have to manage my HP here, I then have to make sure I just don't get hit when half the enemies in this trial do either AoEs or throw out projectiles ad nauseum. It's annoying. It's not fun. It's not even a matter of getting good, because when you want to get good, the act of getting good should be fun and engaging. This is a slog. And it's worse than PoE because the whole premise of this game is that each new season you come back with a new character to do it again. I never want to do Trial of the Sekhmet again. I had my initial run where I didn't realize what honor was or did. I lost it in like the 6th floor. Okay, fine. I can read up what honor did, and I did. I move in. I got to the floor right before the final boss fight, lost my honor, and 20 minutes of my time, go back to spawn. Tried again. I got to the boss room this time with over half my honor. Then what did the boss do? Man just immediately started chaining AoEs together, which took up like half the room it felt like, and my honor evaporated. I am a melee. I am supposed to be near the guy to actually do damage. This guy has a bunch of HP. It's annoying. There's so many moments in this game where it just feels as if it's telling you to go screw yourself because you had the audacity to pick a melee class. I didn't even mind, like, the looting system in this game, or how sparse rewards can feel on occasion, because it made upgrades feel that more special to me. Maybe, though, it should be upped a little bit. I didn't mind the rest of the game feeling melee unfriendly because, well, I play Souls games, I don't mind dodging things, and I can get through stuff like that. Trial of the Sekhmet is wholly off-putting to me. And the funny thing is, the way to fix it would be to just remove honor as a resource, because it's not a fun mechanic to manage. Not in a game like PoE or PoE 2, and especially not as melee. Let me manage the blessed water resource you already have here, and give me ways to buff myself within the trial, and give me frequent stores to use that water resource to buy upgrades or whatever. Lean into the idea of it being a roguelike, instead of this weird endurance check that's just slow, tedious, and monotonous, and I'm never going to do Trial of the Sekhmet going, oh dude, hell yeah, we're at this part. It's gonna be, oh god, dude, we're here? Can I skip this? That's how I'm gonna feel, and that's not a good feeling, especially when Ascendancy is locked behind this thing. At least for now it is. And the worst part is, yeah, removing honor would remove the biggest pain point here for me in all of PoE 2. It wouldn't fix Trial of the Sekhmet because, again, these individual events you do in Trial of the Sekhmet are freaking boring. Maybe if you gave me a way to just restart from where I was before I died, like if I died to the final boss, I can restart that final boss with the exact honor and affixes that I had going in there, like maybe you could do that, but it's a bit of a shame because I'll probably come back to this and manage to beat it. It's just an endurance check. But the main pain point here for me, besides honor being just an abomination, the idea of coming back with new characters and having to do Trial of the Sekhmet. And knowing in the back of my mind, if I ever make another melee class, I'm like, I'm gonna have to do Trial of the Sekhmet as melee. That's always gonna be in the back of my mind. If it was just an optional side dungeon that maybe gave you a cool piece of armor, it'd be whatever. The idea of always having to come back and do this again and again, and it being that boring, that monotonous, that much of a slog, I have no desire to do that. My suggestion would be to either add more stores throughout Trial of the Sekhmet that can spend blessed water on, or sacred water, whatever you want to call it, more ways to recoup my honor, or just, better yet, remove honor as a system and work up from there. Wholesale remove that one type of floor that's just composed of traps and levers. Remove that from existence because it's boring and way longer than any of the other ones. Like, you do that, you remove that one type of floor, and remove honor as a system, and you fix like 90% of the pain here. Because the rest is boring, but it's quick. Having to redo it again and again and again because you got hit too many times because you had the audacity to play as melee is a giant put off. It's a giant waste of time as well. But yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, was it way easier as like a ranged character? I want to know because I haven't done it. I only have a warrior. But how have you been enjoying PoE 2? Do you really love it? Do you hate it? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again.